How's my hair?
Well, let's...
No, it's fine. Keep going.
Okay.
All right. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jennifer. We're a middle-aged couple with a Regal Unlimited subscription and a fondness for movie popcorn.
So we're going to talk about the movies we see in 2025.
Today's movie is The Damned, which came out on January 3rd, right?
I think that's right.
And today is January 4th?
Today's the 4th.
Yeah. All right. So, we went to see it at...
the Regal Cinema in Union Square in New York City, where we live. And... yeah.
So, we went to this movie because Dave saw it on...
I saw a review of it. I saw a review of it on YouTube.
And so he
told me...
the
review was pretty glowing.
Yeah. And he told me it was an Icelandic movie.
It's an Icelandic movie, and Jennifer's obsessed with Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horror movie. I'm obsessed with horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was pretty aggressively mid, but so this is a joint Irish, UK, Iceland, and Belgium production.
The movie's in English.
I
was
absolutely
fully expecting it to be in Icelandic and ready for subtitles. And
the director is Icelandic. The setting is Icelandic.
Because I was thinking it was like, what was the one that we saw on Netflix? That was like it was a series.
Which one?
That was...
This is gripping.
No,
okay.
that it was set in Iceland.
The one about the volcano?
The one about... Yeah, that was Hekla.
That was Hekla.
Right? Yeah, I was thinking it was like Hekla.
Hekla was so much better.
Yeah.
Hekla wandered all over the map and didn't have a good ending. It still was better than this.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, we don't want to dump on this movie too much. It was not terrible. It was solid. It was a solid little horror movie. It really felt like something you would see on European television, though. It felt like a Canal Plus production or something, which is not... I'm not trying to make a dig at European television. We watch a ton of European television shows, and they're great, but they have a certain look to them. They have a very flat kind of video kind of look, even when they're shot on film. They just don't have the same kind of like post-processing that American movies tend to have. So this looks kind of flat. Even the big landscape shots were kind of claustrophobic.
Well, I mean, I think they were meant to be claustrophobic. It's set in this fishing station that's basically a few people in 3 buildings on the edge of Iceland, basically in winter. And the movie starts on midwinter night, so presumably like the 21st or the 22nd, like the shortest day of the year. And so it's a very claustrophobic feeling movie. It's this small group of people. It's almost always dark. The setting itself is scary enough, to be honest. I don't, as much as I love Iceland, I do not want to be alone at a station with 5 other people in the middle of winter with no way to get out. So that by itself has enough of a creepiness factor. And then, not to tell the entirety of the story, but there's this looming sense of, doom and something out in the darkness that is kind of like threatening the people at this station, right?
I think we can talk about the premise. So this fishing station is owned by a woman named Eva, played by Odessa Young, was her name? The actress? I think that's right. And she's very good in the movie.
I just felt bad for her because I think she was very cold the whole movie. Because she was dressed like a girl,
really red,
set in the 19th century, and
her nose was very red.
Wearing skirts the whole time, and not a whole lot of gloves or mittens.
This is very true. But so she owns this place. Her husband actually had, I think, built the place. Now he's dead, and has left this to her. So she's running this fishing station, which is almost entirely just fishermen. And then one additional woman who's a cook or
house person,
housekeeper, etc. And the housekeeper doesn't make it long into the movie, so she's this woman alone with all these very big hairy men, and holding her own pretty well at the start of the movie.
Yeah, she's the boss.
She's absolutely the boss. But then they're in a bad place at the start of the movie where they've run out of food. They're eating their own bait fish, and that's a bad thing. When one morning they see a real like a sailing ship, like a schooner, foundering on the rocks off in the distance. Now, it's clear to all of these people are fishermen. They know exactly what's going to happen. Is the ship is going to sink, and it does. They debate whether to go rescue the survivors, and in the end, they decide. Eva decides that they don't have enough food for themselves. There's no point in rescuing the survivors.
And that there's a threat to their own much smaller boat if they go out to where the rocks are.
Yeah.
That where those rocks are is where her husband ended up drowning before.
Yes.
So they know it's a dangerous spot.
But I think it's mostly just the cold logic of starvation at
Yep.
play here. This is absolutely about how you survive in an incredibly hostile environment. And unfortunately, doing the right thing is the first casualty. So they let the sailors drown. We get a little more about that, but not much. Most of the action of the story takes place at the fishing station in the aftermath of this shipwreck, when the fishermen start thinking that maybe they're being haunted by the ghosts of the dead sailors.
And in terms of plot, let's maybe not go any
Yeah, well,
farther
that's
than
as far
that.
as we'll go.
Yeah.
This is all based on the Draugr myth, which is a Norse myth about sort of like revengeful zombie ghosts. They're not just ghosts; they have flesh and blood, but they're one character in the movie describes it as, but all life has left them, and all they have left is hatred.
Did you know this myth before this? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I had
this is
never
a real
heard
thing.
I mean, I didn't doubt that, but I had never heard of that myth
I
before.
think there's a Draugr story in the Icelandic sagas. I remember there is a Draugr myth about a Draugr who every night comes and walks back and forth on the roof of the house looking for revenge, and that is referenced in this movie.
Okay.
But
I did not know that.
yeah, this is all based on real folklore. The steps that they take to try to protect themselves are all real things from real Norse folklore. It doesn't work out too well for them, as you might imagine, it being a horror movie. And I really felt, without spoiling anything, I felt that the ending of this movie was a real letdown. Different people are going to have different takes on that. It is absolutely a polarizing ending.
Because the review you saw was very, was supportive of the movie and thought it was good.
Supportive of the movie, but it didn't say anything about the ending.
Right.
The review I saw said that it had a really good sustained feeling of dread and cold and dampness and, just the horror of starvation in a cold place. I think absolutely the movie nails that.
It does that, but, I have a thing about people doing things that don't always make sense.
Sure.
And not all of their actions, I felt like, in terms of starvation and survival, were true to people who would clearly know how to stay alive in an environment like this. So, there are a lot of people running around in blizzards and stuff that, it doesn't seem like good safety protocol to just kind of go charging off in the dark or go charging off in a blizzard, in ways that I'm like, they'd be a little bit more savvy about protecting themselves, even though you're getting this idea that people are not necessarily thinking straight, right? But yeah, so that kind of tripped me, that kind of pulled me out of the feeling of dread sometimes, because it is a dread of the unknown for the viewer, but it's not unknown. It shouldn't be unknown for them. The landscape around them should not be unknown for them. They live there, right? So they should be a little bit savvier about the landscape, even though there's this other sense of this otherworldly sense of dread that the movie is actually very good at conveying.
So it works as a horror movie.
Yep.
I would say that I promised Jennifer when we went to see this movie there wouldn't be a lot of jump scares. There are a lot of jump scares, so be ready for that. But they're actually done really well. Jennifer felt like they were all telegraphed. I felt they were all set up really well.
Well, I mean, I guess we're using those words in I mean, when I say telegraphed, I mean it's set up that
Yeah.
like I felt like I knew something was going to happen. I just didn't know what it was.
Right.
And I'm actually would say that I don't go to see horror movies because I think of horror movies as like somebody jumps out with like a giant knife and then stabs you 75 times or makes you stab yourself 75 times, and I just am not into that. But horror is actually a little bit more than that, and so like I saw a horror movie and I was not so scared. Like it's a horror movie without being terrifying, and
Right.
and that I realize I can do.
And okay, so that's how it works as a horror movie. I think that the thing about the jump scares is they're not cheap shots. They are smart. Like there were a couple in the movie in this movie that really got me as a jaded horror fan. Still got me, and that's impressive at this point. So that's how it does as a horror movie. How did it do as an Icelandic movie?
I don't pretend to be any gigantic expert at Icelandicness, but I was actually expecting no. But I had assumed because I looked nothing up about this movie, so
Right.
just being told it's an Icelandic movie and shot in Iceland, I assumed it was in Icelandic. So I was going into a movie like ready for subtitles, and then people are speaking, UK accented English or Irish accented English. I'm not even 100% sure, right? So that kind of threw me. But yeah, I mean, by the names of the characters, the characters all have, Icelandic, Norwegian-ish names. So you're clearly supposed to feel that this is an Icelandic movie. And I think the sense of the bleakness and the darkness and the claustrophobic snowiness of like remote life in Iceland in the 19th century. This movie is clearly set sometime in the 19th century. Yeah. That came through very, very clearly. Yeah. No matter what language people were speaking.
The period detail was great. I think that there was absolutely, like they constantly refer to the fact that all their houses are powered on whale oil, which is amazing. This is absolutely the kind of horror movie that's designed to be claustrophobic, is designed to take place all in one building, basically, and a few exterior shots, and it works on that level. I think all the actors were fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the actors I thought were actually all really, really good. My
very hairy.
Well, that seems actually very necessary. It's cold.
It's period appropriate.
You understand why you would want to have a beard. Like, the men that didn't have beards, I'm like, your face looks cold. Like, you should grow a giant beard like the other three guys have, So, yeah.
But absolute props to the actress who plays Eva, who does just a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Of a psychological horror movie about a woman whose take on reality is deteriorating without ever feeling weak.
Yes.
I think she manages to feel like a strong female character throughout the film.
Yes.
Even when she makes poor choices.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a complicated enough character to pull that off, and I think the actress really sells that.
Yeah.
So there are some definite strengths to this movie. I still say it's pretty mid. It didn't scare me that much. It didn't scare Jennifer that much.
But that's a positive thing for me.
Sure. It raised some questions. We did talk about some things that happened in the movie afterwards as we were walking to the subway station. That might have, we were had a few aha moments on that walk, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
For a movie. Of all the terrible, terrible, terrible movies we saw last year, this is not one of them.
Oh yeah, no.
Because it's this year, but also it just wasn't a terrible movie.
Yeah.
I think you could do worse than seeing this for free with the Recall Unlimited program.
Oh, sure.
Which, by the way, we're not being sponsored.
No, it just
if
it
you
means
have the AMC A-lister or
whatever the other ones.
That works too.
If you're still doing Movie Pass, they still exist.
That's true. I don't know if Alamo Drafthouse is showing this or not, but we'll
I would imagine that they would.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah, so in other words, if you see this movie for free. So I would say don't spend $16 to see this movie, but if it comes on streaming
Yes.
in a few months,
Yes.
definitely check it out there.
Yeah.
Because it'll look so much better on television.
It's also a movie-length movie. It's a 90-minute
yes.
movie, right?
Yes.
Like, it's a movie length.
Oh, God, that was great.
And, you know, going through the movie and I'm, you know, kind of feeling like this movie is going to end sometime actually fairly soon. Like, it seems like it should. And I didn't feel like I had been there for an eternity. And I didn't look at this before we went. It's a 90-minute movie. Like, it's a movie-length movie. It's not like
it moves at
5 hours of, like, you know, some random development about stuff you don't care about.
It moves at a really good clip. A ghost story movie can be very slow, can be a real slow burn, and this is not that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sets everything up very clearly, tells you the story. There is an end to the story. Off you go for the rest of your evening.
All right, so that is the first movie in our series, Dave and Jennifer Go to the Movies, or whatever we end up calling this.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to call it, but we'll call it something.
We'll call it something. And our next movie we have no idea.
Yeah, we don't have.
We honestly don't know.
Yeah,
We're not going to go see the Monkey Man movie. We're not going to go see.
It's not called Monkey Man.
Yeah,
we saw Monkey Man. That was great.
No, we're not going to see Better Man.
Better Man.
That's what that one's called.
I mean, Robbie Williams is cute, but you know,
I've
he's not in this movie.
I've never heard of Robbie Williams in my life until this movie came out. So I'm not going to see a biopic about a musician who I don't even know what song he did.
You know some of the
Fair.
songs, but you know it's like the background music of the late 90s and the early 2000s, and we saw Honora, and the first 5 minutes of Honora is a Take That song.
Okay, so that's fine. We're not going to see that. What else are we not going to see?
I actually don't know.
I don't even know what's coming out.
Neither do I.
It's January, which of course is Siberia for movies.
Yeah,
but
so we'll see what comes next.
We will. And we'll keep you updated. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.